So let's go, let's roll. We have three key questions today that I want to address. What is a typical listening lesson today? What is the difference between listening skills and listening strategies? And the third one is, of course, classroom applications. That's what we want. How can teachers help EFL learners improve their listening comprehension and long-term listening development through developing listening strategies? So I'm going to present to you the following scenario. So this is Miss Fatima. And so this is her class for MS, middle school. So it is time for them to have their English class, and Miss Fatima is going to give her learners a listening lesson today. And she tells her students to take out their textbooks and look at the listening exercise on page 28 and 29. And she tells them that they will be listening to a passage about wedding traditions of a group of people who live in Algeria. So next, she tells them to read the questions and multiple choice options for the listening passage carefully. She explains that this will help them find out what the passage is about, as well as what to listen for when the recording is played. And then when the class is ready, she plays an audio recording of a listening passage. The students listen attentively and select what they think is the correct answer to each question, of course. Now, when the recording ends, Miss Fatima plays it a second time so that their learners or her learners can check their answers. Now, after this, she goes over each question and gives them the correct answer. And she finally checks how individual learners have performed, and then goes over some of the difficult questions and explains the correct answers. When this is done, the class moves on to the next part of the lesson, which requires them to write a short composition. That is, she moves to another activity, a writing activity. This composition, this writing activity is going to be about the passage that they've listened to and heard and worked on. So what I want to ask you quickly, does this listening lesson resemble any of the listening lessons that you have experienced as a learner or taught to your students? And if it is, what are the similarities? If it is not, what are the differences? So I'm gonna, of course, give you some time to reflect on the lesson that I've just described. And I'm going to give you time to do that in the chat box. So in the chat box, please try to answer this question that that is displayed on the slide. And I think Gary's gone. So Fadia, can you?
Yes.
Moderate? He's here. So Gary, please, can you check on some of the answers to that particular question displayed?
Looks like overwhelmingly yes.
Yes?
Yes. There's a couple of them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, moving to the next question, I want to ask you about that particular story. Do you think it is useful to ask learners to preview the comprehension questions? Now, why or why not? Remember that she told them to read the questions before listening to the passage. So do you think it is useful to read the questions before? If yes, why? And if not, why? So give that a try. Write down your answers, please, in the chat box. And Gary is going to help me review the different answers to that question. Yes.
Is yes, listening with an objective. They could be useful, so they answer quickly, maybe a matter of time. And some people, I see the other side of that. No, let them try on their own. Yes, if we want them to listen for specific details. Listening should be on purpose. A lot of responses, a lot.
Yeah, please. I'll try to keep up with you.
Yes, it's useful to activate prior knowledge and prepare them to be more attentive. I think that one's good.
Okay, let's move to the next one. And the next one says, some people would say that this lesson tests listening rather than teaches it. What do you think? Do you think that it tests listening or it teaches listening? Reflect again on the lesson. I don't want to go back and tell you the whole story again because it's not a short one. So, but try to remember the different parts and the different, and tell me if you think, is this a teaching lesson or do you think that this is just testing?
Some people say it's not teaching, it teaches listening. Test listening skills. Let's go down further. Some people say it's both. A few people say it's both, actually. But a lot of people are saying testing, or an enhancement.
I think most of them are saying that it tests, right?
Yeah.
So if you think that it tests, why do you think it tests listening rather than teaching it? Why do you think it tests? What's in there that shows that? Why do you think that this is a test rather than a lesson? For those, of course, who have said that it is a test.
Because students already saw the questions. That's what it says.
Okay.
To test their attention. Ooh, because it's focused on specific information. Because listening is a skill that should be tested as well.
Okay. All right. Let's move to the next slide. Thank you very much, everybody. Let's move to the next slide. And I want you to keep those questions that we have asked, and I want you to keep that situation or that scenario or that story that we have just started with in mind as we go by, because we might come back to it for reference and examples. So let's go. And I want to start with listening skills. And there are 6 listening skills, core listening skills, that I want to show you today. The first one is to listen for details. Now, when you listen for details, you identify specific information, such as, for example, keywords or numbers or names and dates and places. Then you listen selectively. Now, when we pay attention to particular parts of the listening text and ignore others that are not relevant to the listening goals or to the questions that have been asked by the teacher, for example, because that can contain too much information to attend to at the same time. Then we listen for global understanding. We understand the overall general idea, such as the theme and the topic and the purpose. And then we listen for main ideas. Now, there is listening for global understanding and listening for main ideas. This is a bit more more specific there. When we listen for main ideas, we try to understand the key points, such as directions, for example, for doing something, or important events in a story. This is what we have done at the beginning when we were when I was narrating the story for you. There are many different, of course, ideas there. And then we listen and infer, something that Fadia has talked about a little bit in the reading. And this is why I said that I'll try to relate some of what has been said earlier in the 2 or 3 sessions to what we have today together. So listen and infer, which is to try to make up for information that is missing and clear or ambiguous in the listening text by using different resources such as background knowledge and visual clues and the speaker's tones and the body language, for example. All of that would help anybody in inference. And the last one is listen and predict. To predict, of course, is to anticipate what is going to be said. You predict the weather, for example. You say it's going to rain. And so in that same way, you can predict what somebody is going to say, or parts of what he's going to say. So this can happen before or during listening by using clues from the context, from the background knowledge, for example, or, which is very important, sometimes we predict what someone is going to say because we know the person so well. So we say, I know you are going to tell me that story, all right? Or say that something in that way because we know so much the person. So these are skills. Today, we are not going to focus on the skills. Today, we are going to focus on the strategies. And I'm going to explain in a few minutes the difference between the two. So what are the strategies? They work horizontally, as you can see from the arrow that I've put in yellow. So these are planning. Now, planning as a strategy is developing an awareness of what needs to be done and having an action plan to overcome the possibilities that you might encounter in the listening. And then we have focus and attention, which is heeding the speaking input in different ways and avoiding distractions. Then we have monitoring, which is checking information and confirming or checking that someone is understanding the text as he or she is supposed to. Then we have evaluation, which is checking the outcomes of listening and listening plans. And then we have, of course, inference. Now, you might say, what's the difference between this, or what is the difference, or what are the differences between listening skills and listening strategies? Now, let me explain that to you in a nutshell. Now, listening skills, that is the upper side of the slide, listening skills are acquired abilities that enable a person to listen without a great deal of deliberate effort or conscious planning. Now, what the teacher earlier was doing was testing these skills. She was testing if the students had these skills or not. That's what she was doing. Now, these acquired abilities are the result of actions that have been practiced frequently in varied situations and through prolonged experience. Now, you can be learning English for, I don't know, 10 years or something like that. So you've had different experiences, listening to YouTube, listening to your teacher, and you develop all of these different skills over time. So now these actions, that is, these skills that you have on the screen in blue, have become automatized. That is, you don't think about them once you master them. Now, strategies, on the other hand, are ways of listening that are planned and consciously adopted to improve comprehension and communication, as well as cope with listening difficulties. These can be implemented by the teacher in the lesson, as we will have examples today. And eventually, the hope is that the implementation by the teacher would give the learner the ability to use these strategies independently. And that's what you want to teach. So strategies that direct attention to the input and coordinate various cognitive processes are often now called metacognitive strategies. What I mean by metacognitive strategies, when we talk about cognition, that is how we think. But what we want to draw attention to through strategies is to think about your thinking. And I'll come back to that in a few minutes. But let me now go to more listening strategies. So we also have prediction. And prediction, of course, is the ability to anticipate the context of what one is going to hear. Then we have contextualization, which is placing what is heard in a specific context to assist further comprehension. Then we have cooperation, that is working with others to get their assistance in comprehension and learning. Then we have using linguistic and learning resources, relying on knowledge of L1, in our case, Arabic, for example, and referring to available resources wherever they are. And then the last one, and this brings me back to Gary, managing emotions, because we have to be aware that one of the most important obstacles in the listening process is actually anxiety. So I would like you to write something about this statement. The most important obstacle in the listening process for our learners is anxiety. Why, in your opinion? So please, in the chat box, write your opinion about that. Why is anxiety the most important, or one of the most important obstacles to comprehension? Go ahead. Take some minutes. Write down, why is anxiety one of the most important obstacles there in comprehension and in listening? Gary, please. Yes.
Sorry. The student might be stressed because he misses important pieces of information.
Sure. Yes.
Lack
definitely.
of confidence.
Yes.
The fear not to
Totally.
understand.
What was that?
People don't, they fear that they're not going to be understood. And I said the same thing. People don't want to feel silly.
Yes.
That is my main reason for not learning a foreign language, is because I don't feel, because they might not understand the content.
Yes.
Loss of concentration. Oh, this is good for you. There are so many accents.
Yes, totally. Accent is one of those things that would make them anxious.
Yeah, lack of confidence. Yeah, a lot of that.
Totally. Now, let's move now to the classroom applications. Now, we've made the difference between listening strategies, listening skills. Now, let's see how that works, because this is what's important. Now, let's start with planning and prediction. You remember that these two are one of these strategies, right? So let's see. We have an exercise. In the following exercise, will help learners to use the introduction. That introduction can be written or oral. The introduction that you can see in the exercise that introduces the situation to predict the situation used in the listening passage. So this is a pre-listening activity. Before listening, you've not yet played the recording, right? So let's see how that goes. So I have for you 4 audios. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have for you also situations, and we are going to look at strategies of planning and prediction. Now you are going to listen to 4 audio introductions and then predict the 2 most likely situations that you might hear for each audio. You have buying something, explaining study obligations, explaining discoveries, talking about place, explaining theories, complaining about poor service, recommending activities, and talking about study achievements. Let's go. Let's listen to audio number 1. Could you hear that?
I cannot.
Okay. Maybe it's the thing that where you have to share the sound too.
Yeah, share the sound. Where can we share the sound on? Yeah, let me remember that. I don't remember that. Let me see where I can share the sound. Just a minute. Yeah, it's the same in sharing, right?
I
Share
think
sound.
so.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yes.
Okay, let's go.
You will hear a telephone conversation between a car salesperson and a customer.
Did you hear that? So
Yes.
please, I want you in the chat box to write which ones do you think you are likely to hear. 2 situations. I repeat that again.
You will hear a telephone conversation between a car salesperson and a customer.
What could it be? Write down in the chat box, please. Buying something, yes. And complaining about poor service. That goes the same for all the others. Number 2.
You will hear a lecturer giving a talk about planets.
Explaining discoveries. Explaining theories.
You will hear a conversation between 2 students about an assignment.
Talking about study achievements and explaining study obligations.
You will hear a talk about a city's tourist attractions.
Talking about place, recommending activities. What you are doing here by doing this is giving them an opportunity, of course, to relieve that anxiety. And this is the most important thing, because they are not like going into limbo, which is into a totally unknown space, which is going to put their anxiety up to the roof if they are going to, because they have many things to worry about. Accent, they have to worry about what this is going to be about. They have to worry about their classmates laughing at them. They have to, all of those things, traumatic experiences that Gary has talked about, of course. So when you do this and then you give them the audio, at least they know what this is in general gonna be about. But what you are doing there at the same time is that you are teaching them how to predict and how to plan. When this is prediction, which is very important, we will have another example, but also planning, because when they are alone, they can plan by predicting. That is, they know what to pay attention to now. They would say from now on, I have to pay attention to the description, to the introduction, whether it is written or oral. And here you are teaching them to be strategic. Let's go to the following exercise. Will help learners to use the introduction, oral or written, same principle, to predict the words used in a listening passage. Remember, the previous one was about predicting situations. Now they are going to predict words. And so you are helping them relieve the anxiety of the words and the vocabulary, They say, I don't understand how this is gonna be because I don't know vocabulary. So you relieve that, you put that away. You by doing this, let me give you an example. This is the same audio. You can work with the same audio, which is better. Let's look at number 1.
You will hear a telephone conversation between a car salesperson and a customer.
What are the words that are likely going to be heard in this particular situation? Go ahead, please write down in the chat box. Car. What else? Car sales. What else? Car engine. Shopping. Totally. Model. Yes. Sell. Buy. Customer. What else? Model. Delivery. Yes. So number 2. So this is for, these are the words for the first one. For the second one,
you'll hear a lecturer giving a talk about planets.
So this is going to be about orbit and cosmology and solar system and light year. And remember, you can practice the pronunciation of these words with them so that when they encounter them in the listening itself, they already know how this is pronounced. And so again, you are taking away that anxiety that they might encounter. Then for number 3, remember,
you will hear a conversation between 2 students about an assignment.
And then
you will hear a talk about a city's tourist attractions.
So this is naturally going to be about, you know, art gallery and next to, because it's a place, and the museum. And you might go into explaining these different words. But the most important thing here is that you are trying to get them to think about, strategically, of course, to think about what they are going to hear before they hear it. And this is one way of developing that strategy. But let's go to the next, in which we are still in planning and prediction. And in this one, you are looking at a question which is BCD International, number of employees. So you want them to listen to this particular passage in which they have to get the number 1, they have to get number of employees. And then number 2, you want them to BCD produces, that is, you want them to get what this company BCD produces. So here you are looking for a number, and here you are looking for something like what does it do. So before you go into the listening, you can have the expressions that announce the answer. That is, for the answer to question 1, I might hear what? I want you to write down in the chat box, please. What can you hear that would announce in the audio before they hear it? What expressions, what phrases can you hear that would announce the number of employees? Go ahead, write down in the chat box, please. We employ, yes, because here we are looking for them. We employ 200, for example. What else? How many? Yes, because this relates to number. BCD employs. Size of workforce, totally. Yes, so all of these different things here will announce that particular number. So how many, size of workforce, the total, and the others are going to tell you about what BCD does. That is something like we manufacture, the company is a manufacturer of, BCD makes, BCD supplies, all of those different things. What business, what BCD produces is, that would announce what they are looking for. So here you are teaching strategy. If you were not teaching strategy, you would tell them to focus directly on the answer. That is, I want you to get the number 200 and the what, but not what comes right before, what announces it. And once you give them that option, that once you empower them, very important. Once you empower them with this, when they hear it, they will recognize it. No problem at all. And this is for planning and prediction. Let me give you another example. Another example in which you are going to read sentences 1 to 6 and predict the answers based on the content and grammar of each sentence. So this is a bit different, but we are still into planning and prediction. We are still into the before listening, because you will realize by the end that we've had activities before, during, and after. This is very important. So listen to the same conversation as you heard in exercise 1. We'll see it together and complete the sentences. So what do you think? The audio is going to be about Steve's holiday plans. And what are your predictions? Steve is going on holiday for. He is going on holiday with his. He is going on holiday in order French. Based on content and grammar, can you predict? Can you guess what's the answer gonna be? For number 1, Steve is going on holiday for what? Say, for. Since you have for what? Write down in the chat box, please. For.
So they got a week, 2 weeks? Friends?
Yeah, for example, for 2 weeks. So this is a week having fun. So this is probably going to be a time, for example. That is 2 weeks, a month, a weekend. He's going on holiday with his. Write down with his, please, in the chat box, with his family. Yes, family, companion, relatives, colleague, etc. So this is a person, a friend, a family member, a schoolmate. Then he's going on holiday in order. Here we are looking for a verb. This is why we said grammar. So in order to learn. Excellent. So it can be verb. It's a verb to speak French, to learn French, etc. All right. Now, let's listen. And this is not an exercise for you, by the way. I know your listening is perfect. But just to have an example, right? Let's listen. And you can now get the answer.
Hey, Jenny.
Oh, hi, Steve. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. How's it going?
Fine, thanks. I'm so glad the exams have finished.
Me too. So, are you going on a holiday this summer?
Yes, I've decided to go to Mexico for the whole summer vacation, 6 weeks in total.
That sounds great. What are you going to do there?
Well, actually, it's a working holiday. I'm going to work at a school teaching English to children. What about you?
I'm going to Paris for 2 weeks.
Are you going with your family?
No, I'm going with my best friend. We've enrolled in a language school to study French.
That sounds like fun. Have a good trip.
You too.
All right. So Steve is going on holiday for, write it down, please. Did you catch that? 2 weeks. Yes. Yes, totally. And he's going with his, of course, best friend. And he's going to study. So even for you, participants, once you've known that this is what you will have to find out and you've guessed it and etc., even for you, you feel like you were not that anxious. You're like, yeah, I know what I'm going to do. I'm all right. Yeah. No, listening is not that difficult after all, which is something that students and learners of a foreign language in general and English in particular in Algeria think it is, of course, because they have been traumatized. Yes, Gary, this was for you. Yeah, I know. So I want to go to another activity. This one is the same, but since you were very good participants and you've had all the answers right, I don't need to elaborate on that one. So the second one, the third strategy that I want to talk about today is focusing attention. Now, in this exercise, you will practice being ready to listen for answers. Now we go into during listening. Okay. Remember BCD International, the number of employees. We are looking for the number of employees, and we are looking for BCD producers. Okay. These two things. And we've seen the expressions that we have to use in order to get that. But one strategy that you can teach your students is to tell them when to listen for the answers. So while you are listening, I will show you this. Get ready. It will light up when there are important words or expressions. And then answer is here. I will show it to you when it is the time to find the answer. Okay, let's go. Let's try this.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Ron Downing to you. Ron is here to talk to you about BCD International. Ron?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here again. I have to say that last year's presentation was very successful indeed. It resulted in 14 people being placed in our offices. So, in total, BCD now employs exactly 527 people worldwide, and all with a variety of skills, which I shall talk about later. Okay, you probably want to know what business BCD is in and what it actually does. BCD International is the second largest computer software manufacturer in the world, and although it is widely considered to make the best quality product, other software companies always provide strong competition, and this means we need to continue employing the most highly skilled people. So, what type of employers are we looking for?
All right. What's the number? Let's start with the number. Number of employees. It's not 14. 227. That's it. Yes. Then what does it do? Yes, 527. Sorry. And then BCD produces. What does it produce? Yeah, I know for some people the internet is bad. So software, yes, computer software. Yeah. So you can do this, and you can get them to focus. And here you are developing their skill, but teaching them when exactly to listen. Because even in everyday life, when we are talking to somebody, we don't always listen to everything that somebody is saying. We tune in and then out, and then we are like, what did you say? And then this is a real life skill that you are teaching, right? So another one, important one, is contextualization. So in this one, let's say you have taught numbers and days of the week to your learners, right? A class in which you have taught numbers from 1 to 20 and the days of the week from Sunday to Saturday. And then you want now to test if learners can recognize the numbers and the days in a conversation using a short audio recording. Of course, any conversation is set within a certain context. You would all agree on this. There is a certain place, there is time, and there are people. So before you test your learners on the days of the week and numbers, because remember, we said if you are doing that, you are testing the skill. So before you do that, you want them to get some strategy. It is helpful to first have a first listening. We come back to second and third listening. Why is it that important? In which they try to recognize the context in which the conversation happens. Let's have an example. Contextualization. Now you are going to listen and tell me, where are they? And you are going to write 1 to 6 in the boxes. So number 1 is the airport, and then restaurant, hotel, museum, taxi, and school. So you are going to listen conversations from 1 to 6, and you are going to number them, which is number 1, which is number 2, which is number 3, etc. Let's listen.
1. A cheese and tomato sandwich, please.
That's $7.20.
So where was that? Write that restaurant. So you write in the box number 1, you write there restaurant. Okay? That goes the same for the others.
2.
So, Anna, your classes are on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Yes, that's school. Very good.
3.
3.
JetBlue flight to Los Angeles is
What's
now
number
boarding
3?
at gate number 9.
It is an airport.
4.
Good. 4.
Where to, madam?
That's a taxi.
Manchester Road, please.
Next.
Number 16.
5. Here's your key, sir. Room 12.
Thank you.
What is that? That's a hotel, of course.
6.
And the last one.
Here we are. Oh, no. It's closed. Look, it says closed on Mondays.
And the last one is museum. Good. So now you have not directed them to pay attention to the numbers and the days, which is what you want to do. But you don't want to do that first. You want to give them an opportunity to contextualize the setting in which they are going to hear or listen to the numbers. At the same time, you are giving them an opportunity to listen for the first time. At the same time, you are taking away their anxiety. At the same time, you are developing their skill, which, as we have said before, is to get the global meaning of what is happening. Remember, that's a skill. So once they contextualize, because that's what we do as human beings, we contextualize everything. If somebody tells you, good morning, you're like, yeah, good morning. But if someone tells you, good morning, you say, wait, there is a problem here. Why did he say good morning to me in that particular way? We contextualize. Who said it? How did he say it? Why did he say it like that? That's what we do. We contextualize. Then you can go now to your main activity, which is, and give them a second listening. Now, write a number or a day in each blank. But you don't start with that, because if you start with that, then you are testing listening. You are not teaching listening. You are testing their ability to recognize sounds. You are not teaching them strategies that they can use when they are on their own. So you go into number 1, which is, for example,
1.
Listen now.
A cheese and tomato sandwich, please.
That's $7.20.
And you write and then 20. That's easier.
2.
Classes are on.
So, Anna,
Write down.
your classes
Yes,
are
please,
on
in the chat
Tuesday
box.
and Thursday mornings. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
On Tuesday and Thursday. And you have spent hours explaining and Yes, I know.
JetBlue flight to Los Angeles is now boarding at gate number 9.
Number, of course, 9. But if you gave them this right from the beginning and you said, yeah, try to get me the number, they're going to be like anxious. And then when they don't catch it, they're going to be, number what was it? Why? Because you've gone directly to something that would make them nervous. Getting the right answer. If your focus is on getting the right answer, you are on the wrong path in teaching and listening. Let's carry on. Of course.
4.
I don't want to.
Where to, madam?
Manchester Road, please. Number 16.
Let's move to the 2 last, inferencing and elaboration. And in that, now you might say, yeah, he's giving us audio. What about video? Yeah, we can use video, but we have to use it in an interesting way. First, we show them the questions. Are 2 people in the video happy? Is there a problem? What seems to be the problem? Now, you might say, yeah, you are revealing too much by giving them the questions before. Yeah. And if you are revealing too much, and then, is this a life or death situation? No, it isn't. So give them as much background as possible. Why not? And you are teaching them planning, because when they get the questions, they know now that the questions have part of the answer. Is there a problem? Yeah, probably, yeah. So they are predicting. So you are developing that in them. So that's what you want. It's not getting the right number or the right name. When your focus is that, then listening becomes difficult because they are too anxious to get the answer. When you put away all of that stress related to finding something in particular, then they are happy about that. And let's see an example with this. So I'm going to play this, and you are going to tell me in the end what's happening here. And don't tell me that the sound is not working, because that's done on purpose. Yeah, I know there is no sound. I know. So I muted the sound on purpose. Can you write in the chat box, why do you think I muted the sound on purpose, please? Yes, it was on purpose. Can you write down no sound? Yes. Why did I put no sound there? To predict, yes. You read the body language. You read the facial expressions. That's what we do as human beings. Sometimes, if let's suppose that you don't speak Chinese, if someone comes to you and says, then you know you are in trouble. You don't need to understand that language, right? Comprehension works like that. We take all of these things into consideration when we are listening. And here we are inferring. So what is to infer? This particular inference is using facial expressions and body language and hand movements to guess the meaning which is conveyed by the speaker. So are the two people in the video happy? Write down, please. Yes. Are they happy? No, of course not. Is there a problem? Is there a problem? Of course, yes. What seems to be the problem? And here we get into inferring and we get into predicting. Late for a meeting, yes, probably because they've seen her watching her. She's mad, she's angry. And so, yeah. Then you can go next to other questions, comprehension questions. Put others or put the same. It's up to you. But now you put the audio.
Jenny! I'm here.
Hi.
I'm so sorry. There was a problem on the underground.
We call it the subway here.
Right. Anyway, the train stopped for about 20 minutes. I tried to call, but there was no signal.
I've been here since 7:45.
I know. I ran from the underground subway station. I'm so sorry.
You're always late. It's funny, isn't it?
I said I'm sorry. Let me go back inside the restaurant.
I waited for an hour for you.
Right.
I don't want to
Then
stay
you can
here.
go on into questions about elaboration. Why is she angry? Why was their meeting at the restaurant? Because it was a date, for example. Why was he late? Etc. And you can do all of this in the inferencing part, that is with the muted audio, or later on when you have the audio on. And so you get into yet another strategy, which is elaboration. Elaboration as a strategy is using prior knowledge from outside the text or conversational context and relating it to knowledge gained from the text or conversation in order to enhance one's interpretation of the text and of the audio, right? So, Dr. Gary, is my time up? Yeah, it is, right? Yeah.
Yep. Getting very close. Yes.
Very close. And so before I want just to give you a framework, finish with this, for any kind of lesson that you want to have, which is planning, and you start with pre-listening, which is planning and predicting. Then you go to first listen, in which you monitor, you evaluate, and you plan. And then you go to second listen, in which, again, you monitor, evaluate, and solve a problem, if there is. Then you have your second verification. And then in the third listen, you monitor and you problem solve. And this is the third verification. And the evaluation, this is post, of course, listening, where you reflect and you set a goal. And so this is one process that you can take. This is one lesson plan that you can take for implementing the strategies that we have talked about today. Hey, thank you very much. And thank you.
Woohoo! Thank you. That was awesome, Joel. I appreciate that. I speak English, and I never think about all of the things that go into that. So and go into, when I look at both of you, my friends, and I think, God, your English is amazing, but I don't think about all the things that you would have to go through to get the level of knowledge and understanding that you both have in English. I mean, I couldn't put that much effort into anything. So it's in teaching, it's got to be tough and rewarding as well. So, so we have questions, right?